You just needed a drunker crowd.
Perhaps. Yeah, this is free advice, man.
Yeah.
My crowd is probably higher than they are drunk. And I've turned my Friday night late shows into mushroom shows. So I take 2.5 grams before I go on stage and just fuck around.
You ever take like 2 grams and it's just, it like hits a bit like 3 and you get out there and instantly you're like, they're not going to like this. Or are you always like, are you last week? Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes the mushrooms just hit harder. And last week they hit harder. And last week during the show, I think I said out loud, I hope I can figure out a way to land this plane.
What's funny about that is like you're doing like just getting on stage and speaking is a huge fear for a lot of people that, I've taken for granted many times. And then being able to tell jokes and entertain people. Like I halfway tried that once and that was the hardest and scariest shit. And doing drugs in public or even trying mushrooms, but you throw it all together casually and you're like, let's see how this goes.
Yeah. I don't really mind public speaking as much as most people, but I want to be sober. Ideally, I'll be like, all right, I want to feel on.
What's the biggest crowd? All right, so it's going to vary wildly, I think, for each of us. What's the biggest crowd of live people you've had to just say something to, announce something, get them in order? Hey, everybody, this is the thing. What's the biggest crowd?
I did a lot for Josh.
I think I've 53,000.
Yeah.
Live.
Damn, he won.
That's crazy because like even with all the training that I have or being like I'm getting in front of 50, just trying to imagine it, like getting my head in that space, standing in front of 53,000 people, no matter what you have to say, even if it was entirely for their benefit, I feel like I'd be like, hello.
Like, and you'd hear like, hello.
Like even just, I've done a couple hundred at paintball events, but even just getting on a bullhorn and talking to people, it's like, man, they're not all looking. it's like if you can't get them, then you're feeling like, should I speak louder or should I just shut the fuck up and walk away? Am I causing a problem here?
You almost read the rules of paintball, dude. Throw a joke in.
Yeah.
The 53,000, I was doing comedy. So I was opening for Larry the Cable Guy. And he sold the 53,000 tickets at Husker Stadium in Nebraska, right? And he would have sold more, but they had to put the stage somewhere.
Yeah.
And what was weird is that I would tell a joke and I would hear laughs and I would go into my next joke, but then I would hear laughs because the people were so far away. It took so long for their fucking laughs to get to me. It really threw me. And he said after the show, he said, I'm so glad you went first. That was weird to hear those delayed laughs. I was like, yeah, it was real weird.
So he used you like a guinea pig, and then he got up there and he's like, all right, instead of a 2 count, we're doing a 4 count between our jokes or whatever.
Yeah. You know what happened to that show? So it was a 4th of July show. He was filming it for a special. And so one of the bits for him at the beginning is he was going to have a guy parachute in, but one of those where he gets to do this and kind of like, and the guy was going to be dressed like Larry the Cable Guy. And he was going to land, run behind the stage, and then Larry, or Dan is his name, was going to run up.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy starts to parachute, and everyone's like, oh, look. And, the pre-audio's coming on. Hey, everybody, this is Larry Cable Guy. I'm coming down to see you, or whatever it was. And we're standing behind stage, and we're watching this dude. And this was this dude's retirement jump.
Oh, no.
Right?
He was almost to his pension.
And the wind picks up. And the dude who's part of his, part of the parachute team I'm standing next to him and I just hear him go, oh no. And I was like, what? He goes,
is he on comms, by the way, in the parachute? Did he hear that? Oh no, also? Because that'd be terrifying.
I don't think so.
There's nothing you can tell him that'll matter. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
That guy's
the next thing he said out loud was, I don't think he's going to make it. It's on YouTube. This dude crashed into the cement stadium seats.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was fucking crazy.
Wait, this guy died?
No, I think he was sick and dislocated his ankle. But he still he had to run backstage.
We're
So the
losing
show
your
could start.
audio. We just
Really?
lost your audio there, Josh.
Yeah. Would you say what was it that?
The bit was that he had to run backstage, right? So Dan could run on stage.
Of course.
And the guy was fucking broken coccyx, dislocated ankle, peeled himself off those stands, ran backstage. It was amazing.
God.
Dude, I just watched it. That guy hit the stands so hard. Well,
no, it wasn't
from the sky.
Yeah. Hey, what's your coccyx? Is that your ass bone?
That's your tailbone. Yeah.
Yeah. It
One
was
of the worst things to break, apparently, because like, how are you supposed to be comfortable in ever with that?
I will say, Josh is being kind to that gentleman. He limped his way to the stage. He was fucked up.
You know what would have been funny is if like he went back behind
God.
like to the concession area and then Larry came out limping as he was like,
Larry
should have faked the limp. That would have been good.
That would have been good. Contact. Is Larry the cable guy still? I never hear about him anymore. Did he just make more money than God and then check out?
Yep.
He has made more money than God, and he still probably does 20 shows a year. I'll tell you something right now, man. I've met a bunch of people in this business, and say whatever you want about him. Nicest guy I've ever met in this business. Generous to a fault to his friends and his family and his openers, and just a solid dude. And would do an hour and a half every night for his fans, and had something crazy like 310 punchlines in his set. It was just even if you hated his show and you're like, I'm only going to laugh at 50% of his jokes, that's 155.
Yes,
out of that
that
blue collar comedy tour, he was not my favorite because obviously he's kind of playing to the lowest common denominator. He's for the dumb rednecks, and I'm more of a fancy Bill Engvall kind of guy.
Yes. Intelligent. You really think that
more
Larry
Ron
the Cable
White,
guy?
honestly. Ron was my favorite. Jeff Foxworthy, obviously. I remembered those Jeff Foxworthy. You learn something from kids. Yesterday, I learned you can put 8 boxes of raisins in a cassette player. I still remember listening to those jokes as a kid, like a little kid, and all of his Christmas albums and stuff. So Larry was out, honestly, my least favorite of them, but I love that whole thing, that blue collar comedy tour.
Ron White is painfully funny. I don't know this off the top of my head. And when people talk about the greatest comics of all time, they're skewed. But I would bet you out of the top 20 comedy albums of all time, not downloaded, but comedy albums bought.
Sure.
If you count Blue Collar, Foxworthy, and Cable Guy, my bet is they have 8 out of the top 20 would be my bet. I bet you Sandler's number 1. I bet you his album is number 1.
Huh. I know that their crowd, their audience in particular, like the blue collar crowd, buy shit. They buy shit, and not usually digital shit. They'll buy.
They got CD players.
They got cassette players. You better sell some cassettes because they'll buy them. So I believe it. I believe they sold a fucking metric shit.
They get cassette players fixed.
I think they made a movie. Like I know that Larry made several movies that I just couldn't watch.
Dude,
but
he was Mater in Cars.
That's right. Yeah, I don't watch animation really. That's for children.
I have not seen Cars, but I know that's a huge movie.
Yeah. I've heard Mater though. I saw like that character that fucking. He's the truck. He's the redneck rusty ass truck, and he's got obviously Larry's Cable Guy voice. I do know that.
A great writer. Old school jokes, set up punchline. Right, there aren't a whole lot of people doing it, but like Sam Morrill's doing it now. Mark Norman, those guys are kind of more old school. But Cable Guy was the only guy for a long time doing it. And man, so good to his fans. He'll shake every hand, take every picture. Just a solid dude. Solid.
I remember watching Blue Collar Comedy Tour when I was young and loving Larry the most. because I was like a young guy and I thought his whole character was funny. Like even at that age, I was like, this is obvious. He's not really a cable guy. Like he's being silly. But I was maybe like 13, and every time they'd be sitting on like the 4 stools and it was Jeff Foxworthy's turn to like start riffing, I'd be like, fuck, man. Like, give it to the drunk guy or pass it back to Larry. like if Bill Engvall and Jeff Foxworthy can both just saunter on backstage. Or this is like what 13-year-old me wanted. Is I wanted the high energy of Larry the Cable Guy and the smug fuck you of Ron White together.
I'll tell you something else about Cable Guy. Don't play wiffle ball with him. That dude is a fucking master.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind next time we hang out. I won't challenge him.
Yeah, don't challenge him to any wiffle ball.
Kyle, you love wiffle ball.
Yeah,
Me too, dude.
That's why I got to keep it quiet. It would crush my dreams of being a pro. I can't lose to the Cable Guy.
I haven't played wiffle ball in forever, but that's a really embarrassing sport to whiff on.
So I think it's come back, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding what I'm watching because I watch these baseball YouTubers. And they're able to put this. They play this game where they play wiffle ball basically, but they're putting so much spin on the goddamn ball. It's really hard to hit. And I don't know. High level wiffle ball is definitely too hard for me because the ball is moving crazy amounts. Because
high level anything is too much for me. Like you watch people do things that you feel like semi competent in, or a game you play, an activity, and then you got a couple with reality.
You got a
What can you do at a high level, Taylor?
High level impressions, high level podcasting. You look like you probably do high level shoulder presses, just like maybe one shoulder exercise you look like you would nail.
One shoulder exercise. But then if I go to the gym and I try to do my epic overhead press, there's going to be some giant who mogs me and makes me feel like a silly man.
Well, there's always like the peak of the highest level, you know?
Yeah.
I think aspiring to be the lowest in the higher levels is really where you want to be. You know, you're never like a target. No one's going to be aggro lifting at you or anything because you're not the biggest guy.
That's what we're doing with the podcast world.
Is it hard for you?
Lowest tier. Yeah.